Hello, everyone. Welcome to the meetup today. I am not Lawrence Laddie. My gentleman to my right of me is not Lawrence Laddie, even though it says Lawrence Laddie. His name is actually Mark Caesar, and we're filling in for Mr. International because he's out of the country. But we wanted to, we're co-hosting small multifamily investment meetup today. So my main man, Mark Caesar, you run it for us a little bit, man.
Sure. So we'll get started with a brief bio on our guest speaker named Duron Chandler. I'm hoping I pronounced the first name correctly.
Got it.
And so about Duron, he paid off $70K in debt with a plan and focus. A graduate of North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University, he applied that same focus and discipline to begin investing in a small multifamily investment portfolio. Duron is an experienced project manager with a demonstrated history of working in software tech-based industries, skilled in operation management, consumer product sales, continuous improvements, and process program scheduler. He is a strong program and project management professional with a certificate focus in project management from the University of California, Irvine. His life motto is run, lift, strive, create. Run, which is put one foot in front of the other, faster than a walking pace. Also to run to and through your problems. Lift weight to become physically strong. Also lift people up, lift up situations, and be a lift to people's spirits. Strive, swim, and or cycle further than you think you can go, because there is an adventure in making it back home. Also push your boundaries to continue to learn and grow. And lastly, create, which is to create the life you want as you are responsible for it. Also create memories and experience that last forever. So that is about our speaker. So without further ado, we're going to skip the whole introduction part. We'll do that lastly. Since we're running the show, we're going to do it our way. So without further ado, Duron, thank you so much for being on Mr. International's platform today.
All right, no problem. Thank you for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone can learn a little bit from my story. Stop me at any time through this to ask questions. I'm gonna get to the real estate part, but we kind of got to get to the beginning of my story to get us to the real estate part. All right, so like everyone said, my name is Duron Chandler, graduate of North Carolina A&T. As you know, somebody that I've known that is spoken on here, Jerome Myers, he was my upstairs neighbor in college. So the story that Jerome tells where Duron and I were sitting on the porch, that's him going from a third person. I am Duron. So I'm the guy that was with Jerome Myers on the porch, and we had the epiphany that multifamily is the way to go. So funny thing about that is, at one point in our relationship, Jerome was kind of the ghost of the relationship, where nobody really seen Jerome. And I played the front a little bit, and we've totally flipped roles. Everybody knows Jerome, nobody knows me. So that's how things go right now. But in true, as you can see, I'm wearing a t-shirt as well. I was there when this got started as well. In true Jerome Myers fashion, I can be reached at duron.chandler, the number 1 at gmail.com. If you want to reach out to me via email, I'm typically responsive to emails. I'm getting better at LinkedIn, just Duron Chandler on LinkedIn, Duron Chandler on Facebook, and Sweatshop D on actual Instagram. All right, so the story started there. If you know Jerome's story, you kind of know how we got into multifamily and us sharing information with each other through peer-to-peer mentoring, right? So providing each other with articles about business and things of that nature, and trying to grow our relationship and help each other grow as men, right? When we were young men at the time, but help each other grow as men. Throughout that, we matriculated from North Carolina A&T. We both got jobs, and Jerome came to me later in life and was like, I'm getting into, well, let me rewind that. Before we got there, as I was paying off this $70,000, that's where I really had to start. And that's where a little bit of the debt will come in at, using the debt to gain wealth. So at this point in my life where I recognized that I needed to get rid of the debt that I was holding, I made a plan. Jerome helped me out with making that plan. We sat there and we figured out the extra money that I had to go towards paying off some of the debt. So I utilized that. I was always a saver, so I always had a little cushion of money. And then one day Jerome actually came to me and he introduced me to hard money lending, right? So this hard money lending will actually be my introduction into kind of real estate and lending and getting to know my finances a little bit better as well. So like I said, I had $5,000 saved up. I was still aggressively paying off my student loans. I had got a second job working at Bose. I wasn't like an extreme high income earner at the time. With the second job, I probably was pulling in $75,000 a year. So between two jobs, one as a project manager and then one as a sales associate for Bose. Then Jerome came and said, he's been doing this thing called hard money lending. I didn't really know anything about it. And we sat down and we talked about it. And he asked me if I wanted to get in one of the deals. Like I said, I was always somebody that had extra money on the side, right? So I always kept $5,000. Some people would call it their emergency fund. At the time, I didn't really call it emergency fund. It was just kind of money that in case I needed it, I had it. So I decided to utilize those funds to go into hard money lending with Jerome after I got an understanding of it, right? So Jerome and I had a lot of conversations around how hard money lending works, how you have to trust your partner in hard money lending, how you have to have an understanding of what they're doing so you don't get your money taken, which some people have in hard money lending. So we went through that process. I gave him I loaned the business $5,000 in proper terms, and I received like my first return back on that, right? So I was like, oh, wow, this is cool. I received that extra money, but at that time, I took that extra money and I put that extra money straight back to my loans because I had student loans, I had car loans, and I was trying to get myself into a space where I didn't have any negative debt or any bad debt. So if I fast forward this a little bit, it got to a point where I freed up, I paid off my student loans, I paid off my car that I had, actually sold that car I sold one of my prized possessions. I'm a car guy. I sold one of my prized possessions to actually pay down my student loans. So I purchased a car in 2010 and I sold it in like 2014 for about the same, 2015 for about the same price that I bought it for, right? So that was one of the fortunate events where I bought a car that didn't depreciate in actual value. I drove it for maintenance and gas for the 4 years that I had it. So I was able to sell that and I utilized that money to pay off my student loans. That was now extra. I was still working the part-time job and I was able to go into the funding a little bit stronger, right? So the funding of the actual hard money lending, the amounts started to increase. Well, Jerome allowed me to participate in as much as I could, right? So it got to the point where it got to the point where I was able to go from lending $5,000 in hard money lending to up to $15,000 of hard money lending. And one of the things that I would actually use in that is my credit line, right? So for those that don't know, you can get personal credit lines from small credit unions and things of that nature. So what I would do is Jerome would position or bring to me a deal where he needed maybe $5,000 to go on the deal, or a deal where he didn't want to go in on the deal, right? He had his money tied up somewhere else, but he wanted the business to actually handle the hard money lending, and I was able to do that. So what would happen is you would come to the table with the deal. I would look at the deal. If the deal was for 45 days, I recognized that if I borrowed from my credit line, I would only have to make one payment on my credit line to recoup the actual money, right? So I would lend, let's say, the $15,000, right? I'd lend the $15,000 directly from my credit line to whatever businesses that needed it. Once I recognized that I only needed to make one payment, everything after that first payment was extra money that I essentially made on top, and then that money would get stored with the cash. The extra cash that I had. So if it was a $425 payment, or let's say to use even numbers, a $200 payment on the $15,000, I would make $800 if the payback was $1,000, right? So I would make $800. So I was utilizing the credit line to make extra money and not the money that I had sitting in the bank. So one of my principles was I didn't loan or I didn't give to any business or the amount that I didn't already have in the bank. So I had some of this money in cash, right? So I had $15,000 cash in the bank, but I didn't want to utilize that. I would just utilize the money that I could get from my 2 credit lines that I had to kind of save myself. And then I was actually building my own emergency fund, right? The official time of becoming an adult and having an emergency fund. I was utilizing that time there to do that. I'm gonna pause for a second to see if somebody has any questions about the utilization of the credit lines, or if I want to poke and prod about utilizing credit lines to do hard money lending. Sure, Matt.
Yeah, I'm just curious about who borrows like $5,000 to $15,000. It seems to me like a small amount.
So that was a small amount. It was a home flipper. He would only need it for the first draw of starting to get the homes flipped. So one was a business. Well, one that I can think of specifically was a business that needed money, right? So she needed to make payroll for a business, and she only needed it for 15 days. I think it was a 15-day gap in when she needed that money. So she didn't need it for a long period of time.
Okay, makes sense.
Any other questions? I kind of hopped straight to I skipped on my story and hopped straight to the point of using your credit lines and utilizing debt to actually make money. Serafina?
Were you ever nervous that you would lose that money? Like, how did you structure? Did you work with an attorney to create like a contract? And how did you confirm if they couldn't pay you back that you would be able to? Was there like a lien against that money? How did you guarantee that you'd be able to get your money back if something kind of fell through, if they didn't make payroll and something, unexpected happened?
So I did not have anything. This is lessons learned. I did not have anything in place for just in case something happened at that time, right? So, and that's one of the reasons that I utilized the credit line instead of utilizing the cash that I had. I didn't have an attorney in place. I tried to work with people that I had an understanding of their business. I had a feel of their character, that they would in the event that they couldn't pay me back because we did have a written agreement. In the event that they could not pay me back what was in the written agreement, they would make me whole, because that's the right thing to do. Granted, that doesn't work for everybody in every position. That is actually a very risky position to take. So some people will lose your money in that situation. But for me, I had that money in the cash in a savings account as well. So if I lost it, I would just be making $400 payments until I paid it off. And for me, it would have been a lesson learned. I don't prescribe that for anybody. I don't say that's the right way to go about it, but that's the way that I did it at that time.
Okay, great. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense that it's kind of like the safer route to have your nest egg over here, but your return's going to be higher than the interest, I assume, from your line of credit.
Correct.
So you're still going to be netting more in the end. Correct. So nice.
Don?
And sorry if I missed this, you've already covered it, but at what point did you open that line of credit? Like, was it very, very early on? Because I was just curious, and because it sounded like you had very kind of humble beginnings, yeah, right? When you and Jerome were around those talking about real estate stuff. So, most banks probably wouldn't be giving you a line of credit when you have no credit to start with.
Right. Yeah. So I was to take that all the way back. I was actually very responsible with my credit all the way through college. Right. So starting in college, I was very responsible for my credit. I had a credit card in college that allowed me to grow my credit score over the years. I actually gained that credit line after I had been working for a few years. I had, from that same bank, I had borrowed the money to buy the car and pay that car off. So, and just building a history with that local credit union, they seen that I was able to handle and pay off. I had a couple of loans to do them now that I think about it, that I paid off extremely early in the process to show them that I was able to handle something like a unsecured credit line to borrow money against. I got that credit line, I believe, in 2012, 2013, so around that time frame.
Okay, so just it was a personal line of credit, then, not like a
Yeah.
HELOC or anything else.
Right.
just
Yeah. Yeah. Not
basically
yeah.
a bank credit card, more or less, for the bank. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So and I didn't want to go the credit card route to borrow the money because the interest rates are so high on that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I preferred to go with a line of credit. The interest rates a lot lower, which made it easier to make money on the money.
Sure. All right. Well, cool.
All right, so I will hop back into the story a little bit. I wanted to get straight to the real estate a little bit because I know you guys are about real estate. I know, and that's what you're here for. So I want to get straight to the money making part. Now I'll get to the part where I talk about like the sacrifices that were made at times to get to this point. And actually, this week, this was the week. When was that? Sunday, Jerome dropped off the first check of an official payout from one of the multifamily investments that we had, right? So, and that was nice to come on this meeting, to come on the heels of that. This is kind of a celebration, so a celebration speech. I wasn't sure if I should come on here and just celebrate, like, hey guys, that first somersault happened, right? That first flip actually came through, so it was very nice. But so to take it back, like I said, I was working 2 jobs. I was working at Bose, and I had a girlfriend who is my now wife. We've been together for, I'll get the years wrong, 13, 14 years now. We've been married since 2017. We decided to live together in Northern Virginia because the rents were high. We decided to save money in that manner. That's when I went along the path to pay off my student loans, right? So I went at it very hard. I pretty much allocated all my extra money that I had in my paycheck to go towards that. So I was the guy that if you came to my house as a young adult, I was living like I was a college student. I had a poppy sign chair from Target. I had a 27-inch TV on a nightstand. I was running a t-shirt business, so I had that in my living room at the time. And I was sleeping on the same mattress that I was sleeping on in college, right? So I was keeping it very meek and very bare bones and humble at the time because I recognized that I wanted to get myself out of debt. Like I really wanted to see the extra money that was in my paychecks. So my wife and I, we lived that lifestyle for a while. We found another apartment in the Northern Virginia area on a deal, which saved us like $300 a month in a better area, which was amazing. Couldn't believe that actually happened. And at that time, that's when I actually got the part-time job to bring in extra money. Then I made another, I won't say a career jump, but I made a upgrade in my pay. I was able to find another project management job. But being a project manager, you can find jobs pretty easily. There's always projects going on somewhere. So I found somewhere that would pay me more than what I was actually making. Went there, got a bump in pay, and that moved me to $75,000 a year for just that one job. So then my income increased almost, I like to say, dramatically, from going from, I think I was at 65, and then I went up to 85 rather quickly. So it's a $20,000 jump for yearly pay, which helped out with paying off those student loans. Student loans were paid off in 2016. At that time, I could have quit my part-time job. I decided not to. I decided to stay on there for 2 more years. Actually, my manager there, he liked that I would come to work on time and actually work. So he talked me into staying, and I ended up staying another 2 more years at Bose to make the extra money. And that extra money built a nest egg that actually went into the first the first major multifamily deal that I did with Jerome here in Richmond, Virginia, that just sold, and that's when I received the payout this week. So it's like a cheerful day and event for me to speak about it, and this just to happen. So our first one came around in 2017. That's the first multifamily deal that I did with Jerome. Then I had 2 more to follow. I went to speak straight to dollars. The first deal I went in $25,000. I didn't have to use my credit lines for that. I had that cash at hand. So I used the $25,000 to go into that deal. The next deal came up, I believe, the following year. And that was another deal. It was worth $25,000. I was able to go into that, and I did utilize some of my credit lines. I didn't have all the cash to go into that deal. Used a small amount, paid it off. We're still waiting on that somersault to happen, that gymnastic flip of that acquisition to sell. And then Jerome came to me with a last one in I think that was at the end of 2018, 2019. My numbers my years may be a little off. And I was able to go into that deal with $25,000 as well, and I was able to utilize the credit lines to help pay for that as well. So I would I would never max out the credit lines because I'm very conscious of my credit score. I never know when I'm going to have to go out there and ask for more money to do something else. But I would borrow from it a little bit, use a lot of the cash that I had in hand to go into these deals. So I essentially I doubled my money for the first deal, which I am very excited about, and that's going I'm going to use that to go into another deal, hopefully sometime here soon. That brings us all the way to like modern day today. With me and my family, I have a daughter, a 3-year-old daughter. Who's running around the house. You probably can hear her screaming in the background sometimes throughout here. And my wife, who's work, she works as well. She works as a cardiac tech. And we are now both saving our money so we can go into more multifamily deals at a greater rate with using our cash. I actually have my wife, she just got her first credit line last week. So she's excited about having it. I explained to her things that we could actually do with it. We'll probably just do home improvements with it, but that's how that goes. So, are there any more questions, thoughts, comments? I see the group has increased their attendance, has popped up a little bit.
I have a question in regards to how you get the line of credit. You just go to the bank and say, hey, I would like a $50,000 line of credit, and then they tell you yes or no based on your credit score and money habits?
That's the gist of it, but so you have to have reasons. All right, so you have they unsecured credit lines. They do a little more research on why you would need the money. So back then, I told them I was using it for investing. They were actually okay with that. I'm not sure if they're okay with that anymore because things are starting to tighten up financially. But yes, you would go to a bank that offers this. You would research it first. Like, so I have one with Wells Fargo. Wells Fargo doesn't offer that product anymore. So you can't go to them to get that. Your local credit unions, some local credit unions do offer it. TD America does offer a credit line. If you're in Virginia, like me, I use Virginia Credit Union for mine. I go in, I explain to them that I want to utilize a credit line for whatever services. Mine was investments at the time. I started with a small amount because I didn't want to scare them with a big amount coming out the gate, right? I didn't want my first credit line to be $60,000 and they just automatically deny that because I've never had a loan that big before. So I went with a loan amount, or I asked for a loan amount that showed that I've handled it before. So I started off with $5,000, and that $5,000 credit line has increased now to $35,000. So they've allowed me to, I can secure $35,000 unsecured from the bank to utilize in a deal if I need to.
And you only pay interest on what you use, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is it a variable interest rate or is it a fixed?
So one I have is a fixed interest rate, 7%, and the other one I have, it is variable. I have not seen it go past 9 though.
Okay, so I don't want to get in your business, but if you have a credit line of $35,000, what potentially, how much could you potentially make off of something like that? Or it's just up in the air?
It all depends. It all depends on what the deal has to offer, right? So if you were to go into a deal and let's say the deal was offering 8 or 10% on that, and what's very important, this is what's very important. What's very important is the term, right? So the amount of time you would have to be paying back on that actual loan. You definitely want to pay attention to that because that can make the difference in whether you're making money or losing money with utilizing your credit line. So if you're borrowing against your credit line to go into a deal and you figure you can make the payments for 2 to 3 months and still make cash on the back end, then that's a deal you would actually go into. Or I would that's a deal that you would analyze more to see if you would go into it. I can't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'll make that clear. But that is a deal that you would actually go into. So you would look at the percentage that you would receive back, your percent return, and the term on how long, because you don't want to be making payments and end up paying back the entire amount that you will be getting because of the time frame so long.
I heard her.
Yes.
So cute. My next question is, so you get a line of credit, you become the bank for someone else. So you go to the bank, you get money, and now you're lending to, just say, you said, I believe you said small business owners that you know, trust, and so forth and so on. And on their return to you, you charge them the interest of your choice. Is that right?
Yeah. So you would work out a deal that works for you too, right? So okay. I was fortunate enough to work with people that weren't unreasonable with the deals, right? Or with the percentage that I was asking for. I try to always come to the table with something that's fair. Try to make sure that and Jerome was there like to help and like coach and work through these relationships. So you always come to the deal with something that's fair. You didn't want to come to the deal like a loan shark, right? And just try to take them to the cleaners, because you want to establish the relationship with this person that's equal and fair and kind of balanced. They understand that this is a business need that you're meeting for them, and it's a business need that you're helping them with, and they're helping you out as well.
Okay, thank you. I like it.
So do you have a full-time job, or is the hard money lending your primary source of income?
That was my question.
Yeah, I've had a full-time job this entire time. I'm still a full-time employee. I work for the Federal Reserve Bank of Richmond. I get to do cool stuff with counterfeit dollars. Don't counterfeit money, guys. I'll catch you, right? But yeah, I've been full-time. For this entire story, I've been a full-time employee, and that's what's been able to help me actually grow my money and into different pots. And so if we go back, I always had that money in cash. Me keeping a full-time job and working part-time was what allowed me to have the money in cash, just in case one of the hard money deals would go sideways, or just in case I needed to do a little something extra. I always had the money from W-2s to help out.
And having that W-2 can help the banks really like to see that like guaranteed income to help if you needed to extend or, need something from them. Right. I think.
Correct. Yeah. The W-2s, the W-2s, showing the W-2s and the money that you have coming from a steady job definitely helps out with the bank and making a decision whether they want to loan you some money or not, unsecured loan or not. Yeah.
Are you going to continue to lend money and to bigger and broader projects and stuff?
To be honest, I haven't. So hard money lending is how I got started. I haven't done hard money lending in probably about a year, 2 years now. So my main focus now setting myself up to go into the multifamily deals that Jerome, James, and I are working on, right? So whatever deals we come to the table with, my goal is to have enough money to help the business grow in that area, right? So haven't done it in a while. I haven't turned any down, right? There just haven't been opportunities haven't been as plentiful as they were in the past.
How do you have your business structure set up?
So that one's like as far as LLC. Yeah, so a simple LLC that I just utilize. Like I have a couple. This one's Chandler Investments. I think that's the right name of that one. And it's this one I would say you would need a lawyer on, because I just did the research on myself. But this one I have it set up as a sole proprietorship with just me, and I utilize fortunate enough to have a friend that's a CPA to help me out in the areas where I may be lacking in knowledge to make sure that my taxes are correct when it comes to my business. Yeah.
Mhm. And do you have like general partnerships with your two other partners from your LLC to them?
Yeah, general partnerships. Any other questions? I can keep going on to the story. The story. So the story of sacrifice goes a lot deeper than what I've just showed. Like I said, I like to get straight to the point with audiences, and I know what they want to hear in certain cases of what I'm brought here to talk about. So I try to get straight to the money lending and the real estate. But a lot of the story, like I said, sacrifice. My wife and I, she's been a wonderful partner on this journey. We were able to have a small wedding in 2017, under $10,000. A part of my story is all about making the correct sacrifices so you can put yourself in position, right? So this is the point where, in the first part of the introduction, where it's having the mindset to get to your goals, right? Having the mindset to overcome challenges. So I knew a long time ago that I wanted to be able to pass on a legacy of some money down to family members that were that are younger than me, right? So my daughter, I want to have a legacy that my daughter can have some money, my nieces and nephews can have some money to start their life with, right? So when I recognized that, I made the correct steps in sacrifices early on. I don't have to do it as much now. Early on, to put myself in position to help them get there. Sacrifices like having a small wedding, right? My wife and I recognized that a large wedding really wasn't us. I have a lot of friends, but a large wedding would just be us paying a lot of money for one day, and we kind of didn't want to do that. So we kept our wedding to under $10,000. Once we had a child, we were living in Northern Virginia, where the rents and money is a lot higher for just standard of living. So we actually relocated back to Richmond, Virginia. At the time, unfortunately, her stepfather-in-law had passed away, but they had just moved into a house. Her mother had just moved into a house. So we were able to move into the house with my mother-in-law, and we stayed there for 6 months before we moved to the house that we're currently in now. About a year. 6 months. Yeah. We stayed there for 6 months, and we were able to save a lot of money, save up for a down payment for the house, which was great, right? So that saved us a lot of money. It's sacrifice to be a grown adult. Like, so this just happened. I'm knocking on 40, and I was living with somebody's mom at 36, right? So it's not comfortable, but it's a part of my story, right? Nobody really wants to do that, but the position that it allowed us to get in to this point right now, I can't argue with, right? So it worked out great for us. We gave her a little extra money on the side for allowing us to stay. I'm pretty sure she was happy about that. But making those type of sacrifices, small weddings, selling my prized possession car, working a part-time job for longer than I wanted to. My wife actually had got 2 jobs as well, paying off my student loans. My wife heard Jerome has a powwow coming up. If you can make it, I would suggest you go. Jerome and I were talking at a powwow one time, and a clip was recorded where we were discussing my wife and paying off her student loans. And he posted that clip on Instagram, and my wife heard it, and she took that clip, and on that day when she heard that, she cut off everything. She was like, "You said I'm not serious about paying off my student loans. We're not going anywhere. We're not doing nothing. We're cutting it off, and I'm paying off these student loans." And she did what I did when I paid off mine. She ratcheted down her finances. She took a deep dive into everything. We cut off the trips that we had. We would still take like little day trips here and there, because you don't want to make these sacrifices and go crazy, right? You want to have a life. So we would take day trips here and there, but all the major trips that we had, because we like to travel, like to eat out, we kind of cut all that off, made sure we were eating at home, cooking dinners for each other, things of that nature, that kind of save the extra money where we could. And she was able to pay off her, I think, $32,000 or $31,000 in just over a year of her student loans, to get those out of the way. So now, and that allows her to save a lot more money, and she's ready to get into investing as well now. So because she's removed the student loans. So making those sacrifices in your life to get to the point where you know you want to go and you know you want to get. You can make those sacrifices, and it might be painful, but you can build in tolerances so it's not as painful. So throughout me paying off my student loans, we were able to take a cruise, which made things nice, right? So we cruised down to the Bahamas because I had some extra money, and I was utilizing my credit card points at the time to take advantage of the trip. So making the sacrifices to pay off to get yourself where you want to be, it doesn't have to be as miserable as I know some people make it seem. They want you to cut off your coffee and anything that actually makes you happy at all. Like you have to find the things that make you happy, right? And then find the things that are not serving you at all and give it the things that are not serving you at all and save your money there. For us, it was like cable. We recognized we didn't need cable TV or paying off or paying on like a lot of streaming channels and things of that nature. So we were able to cut a lot of bills there. So I've done a presentation on pretty much everything I talked about today. The budget and spending habits, one of the things that I like to tell people, and I like to give people tangible takeaways, so you don't go away from here just talking about my story. You actually have some things that you can take away. Tangible takeaway for getting your budget together is you have to identify your spending habits. That's one thing I did early on. I did that in around 2009. It's one of the exercises I did with Jerome, and we worked through identify your spending habits. Then you identify the opportunities to be more efficient. So that's when we recognize we can cut cable. That's when we recognize we don't have to go out to eat every weekend. We don't have to go to this party or be on this scene, right? So you recognize places to be more efficient in your budget, and then you identify the gap, right? Once you eliminate the things that you don't need to spend money on, you recognize the gap of money between your spending and what you're bringing home. So that's what you can actually save. That's what you can invest with. That's what I was able to invest with, and then you just align your money with your goals at that point, right? So you sit there and you're like, okay. You sit there and like, okay, I have this gap now. What am I going to do with it? Where am I going to take it? For me, it was a small multifamily, making sure I had the money aside to actually invest. So to go into the deals with $25,000 to double my money and to make my money there, that was my goal. And that's where I aligned that gap that I found in my money. And that's where I aligned it to. And I was able to successfully get there. So those are like 4 things you can definitely do with your budget that are super tangible, super easy. You can get there pretty quickly as long as you're utilizing some kind of budget tool to recognize where your money's at, and then as long as you can stay disciplined on some of the things that you want to discipline yourself on to get there.
Have you used Mint or Truebill or any other particular app to help monitor your spending? I've been looking into Truebill and Mint, and I haven't made a decision yet for that exact reason.
Yeah, I utilized Mint for a little while. For me, it didn't work. It works for other people. Like it worked for my wife, but it didn't work for me. I had to get ahead of my paychecks, right? So I use Excel, right? So I type it in and I figure out what needs to go for food, how much all my bills are. So once my paycheck comes in, the money's already allotted. Mint was kind of behind for me, right? Like I had to spend the money to figure out where it was going. I wanted to get ahead of it. So I use an Excel spreadsheet. That's a great question.
Sometimes spreadsheets just give you exactly what you need, even though it's so basic.
That was a great question. Yeah, so that's one of the reasons I don't. Well, one reason I haven't in recent years. So I just started here in 2020. I haven't lent any money since just before I started working here. So when you're working for a Federal Reserve Bank, there are limits into what you can actually do with money and how you can invest and things you can invest in. Even though I'm not involved in any of the departments that make any of the decisions for anything financial for the United States. I'm in the currency technology part of it. And so I deal with actual physical notes and making them hard to counterfeit and machines and things of that nature. But yeah, you have to when you sign on to the Federal Reserve Bank, there's certain things that certain protocols you have to follow. hard money lending would probably be one of the things that I probably couldn't do. Like I said, opportunity hasn't presented itself in the last 2 years. That's how long I've been working here. So it kind of worked out for me. So I haven't been doing any hard money lending since I've been an employee of W-2 of the Federal Reserve Bank.
Good question.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So other notes, I got notes for days. Like I said, I do these presentations. So other notes that I have, it's hard to invest if you don't have your personal finances in order. So back to your point, Serafina, you have to have your personal finances kind of locked up. Be very sure of where your money's going and where you want it to go. It's possible to invest even if you're not a high income earner. So to have complete transparency with you guys, and I like to have that with the audience at all times, I didn't become a high income earner until to consider like 2019, right? And high income earner being somebody that made over $100,000 a year. So everything all the hard money lending and all the investing into multifamily, I did while I wasn't considered a hard money lender. I mean, I did while I was considered a high income earner. I'm sorry. So there are ways to get to your goals, and there are ways to achieve your goals if you focus on those and you get creative with how you're doing it. If I had to wait till I had the actual cash to get into the majority of these deals, I probably would only be in maybe one deal. If I had to have all that money together at one time, I probably would have had enough money just to do like one deal. But since I was able to get creative with utilizing my credit lines to go into some of the multifamily deals, that was that made things easier for me to actually get into the deals. You can educate yourself, but and have a mentor coach. So as somebody that has Jerome as a friend, I'm actually lucky that he took that deep dive into real estate. So to have him as a mentor, coach, and a friend definitely helps out. But I've also educated myself as well. I've spent many hours on YouTube. Jerome and I actually sharing videos back and forth and helping each other learn. And to go back to the second point and having your personal finances together, the last bullet I have on that is be prepared when it's go time. So when I was given the opportunities to make these investments, I was prepared, right? So I knew what I wanted to do. I prepared myself to do so. So when the opportunity presented itself, I was able to actually get involved and go head first into actually these deals. And that's either hard money lending, which if we go back, I started off with $5,000. Just having that $5,000, I was able to go into a deal. And then the multifamily deals, to have $25,000 to go into deals. So having that ready when it's go time is very important, because you don't want to be presented with a deal and then you don't have the money and then you feel regretful that you don't have that actually set up.
A question for you. Maybe I didn't catch it. For the multifamily deals, right? With the 25,000, you were using your portion of the cash flow to pay back the $25,000 that you borrowed. How did you? Because that was 25 is from your line of credit. Yes.
Yeah. So for the multifamily deals, the first deal I had in cash, right? So I had that in cash. First deal was done straight out of my money. Didn't have to go against the credit line. The other two deals, I had to take about, I think, $10,000 each time to get into that deal, right? The multifamily deals are a lot longer in terms. So it was kind of easier to pay back the $10,000, or actually one was 5 and one was 10. So it was easy to pay back the $15,000 over the terms because the terms are a lot longer. The multifamily deals are stretched to, I think, 7 to 8 years, right? And it's not going to take me 7 to 8 years to pay off a $10,000 pool and a $5,000 pool. It's going to take me for the $10,000 pool. If I do it slow, it'll take me a year. If I do it fast, it'll take me like 6 months. For the $5,000 pool, it should only take a few months to actually pay that back.
Okay.
What bank do you use for your line of credits today?
So I'm still at the same too. I still have Wells Fargo. I tried to get an increase the other day, and they've said they don't offer that product anymore. So I'm stuck at the balance that I have, and Virginia Credit Union. So the Virginia Credit Union here, that's where I have my larger credit line. And they were, I asked for an increase, and I've got it up to the maximum that they will allow. I will probably venture out and try to find another bank that will offer a larger credit line. Honestly, just to have it. I don't have any plans to use it. I'm with the investments, one of the apartments selling, and then the cash flow actually coming in. I will just use that to roll into my next deals.
Quick question for you. Do you find it easier to get a line of credit from a credit union or a large institutional bank?
It was easier from the credit union. The large, it's like what the Wells Fargo, even though the amount was lesser, they wanted more information. And that may be because the smaller bank I have been with pretty much my entire financial life has been with this smaller credit union. So they had all the information that they need. And the larger bank did not, Wells Fargo did not, but it was a lot easier with the smaller bank. Yeah, thank God for credit unions, not lying. Yeah.
Another question for you.
Hmm?
Let's say you had only $25,000, and I'm just using this number to use it in your bank account right now. That's what you have. And a deal comes on the table that requires $25,000, right?
Mhm.
Would you, or maybe it requires $20,000. Would you go use 20 from, so let's say you didn't have a line of credit, right? Would you go ask for a line of credit against what you have presently, or would you use what you have, your capital to fund this deal, or would you just pass on the deal?
The deal requires $20,000. I have $20,000. The deal.
You have 25,000 in your
25.
bank account.
Gotcha. And the deal requires 20.
Mm-hmm.
Would I pass on the deal?
Would you pass, go get a line of credit to fund the deal, or use from your 25,000 in your bank?
I probably wouldn't pass on the deal depending on how much the return is. And I would need to know the how much the return is, the length of the terms. I would use, I'm a little more risk averse, right? So I wouldn't use all my money, but I would figure out how much I could borrow against to the bank. I would use some cash and some credit line to go into the deal. The deal would have to be the right deal though. So I've passed on deals before because the deal wasn't the right deal for me, right? I couldn't swing it. So
Okay.
yeah, knowing the details of the deal is highly important.
Okay.
What's the return? How long is the term?
Well, let's say it's a buy and hold. It's a buy and hold,
Mhm.
small multifamily. You're gonna be, you're probably gonna hold it for like 5 years, so to say, maybe. Maybe decide to hold it longer. Don't have any percentages in regards to rate of return, but because I'm still learning. I'm still learning all that stuff.
I would probably do a half. I wouldn't get all my cash involved. Like I said, I don't like to, like, one of the reasons I use credit lines, I don't like to get all my cash involved in a lot of the things. So I would probably do a hybrid approach to it, where I would use some cash and some credit line if I'm able to get that amount secured from the bank if I don't already have it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Kate? Let me just jump in.
Hey.
Wouldn't the conversation really be around the arbitrage that you're going to get based on the investment? So when it comes to the strategy, would the strategy not be, okay, I will take out a line if the interest that I'm going to get from the investment is 1 or 2 points more than what I'm covering on my debt? And also the question that I have in my mind would be, okay, if I have funds that are in a checking account and I'm earning 1%, right? Would it not be better for me to move into an investment that's going to give me a higher return than that versus having that money lose purchasing power by remaining inside of that account?
Mhm. Yes, and yes.
Yes. That is the answer to the question. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Lee. And thank you.
It's
Duron.
all about arbitrage. It's all about arbitrage and where you can get the most for that opportunity, right? For instance, one of my investment principles is, and this is one of my small investment principles, if I have two different syndications, both are offering a preferred return of 8%, but one is giving me a cash flow distribution every month versus every quarter, which one do I choose?
Right.
I would always choose the one that's monthly because within my system, I'm able to put that money to work monthly, which means that it's able to compound versus the quarterly where I would be able to compound it every 3 months. So my question is, why let the operator, if they're collecting rents every month, why should they hold on to the money and do nothing with it if I can get that money back and put it to work on my side? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So and the points that Lee is making is very important, right? So it depends on the deal and how you decide to go into it. And that thanks for that information, Lee. Those are very good points. And that's why I said you would need to know the terms and you would need to know the percentage.
Yeah, and the only difference probably with your story and my story is that being in tech, I had, I'm probably on my 12th job since college at this point in time, right? So my strategy was to take all of those stranded 401ks because, the first thing that I learned is that, hey, if they're going to give me some free money, right? Money that I didn't have to work for, right? Money that I didn't have to work for, right? And add something to it, why would I not put money there, right? I can live without that coffee. I can live without that extra dinner out because that money went into an investment. And then those were the monies that I used in order to fund my different syndications later on in life. You get what I'm saying? So taking all of those stranded 401ks, because no one works for General Motors for 35 years anymore. Right. But you then take those 401ks, move those 401ks into a QRP or a self-directed IRA. And then that would be your funding mechanism to go into these different vehicles. And what I'm starting to realize is multifamily is great, but there are also other investment vehicles that one could use in order to grow that capital. And for me, that's the real way that we start extending these wealth opportunities.
Yeah, I never rolled any of the 401ks I had into multifamily opportunities. I just kind of rolled them into self-directed IRAs. But yeah, I pick up what you're putting down. Yeah.
When you put it into the self-directed IRA, what did you do with it from there? Because I tried to follow and do the hard money loans. Mm-hmm. Right. But when I did the hard money loan, because I couldn't get first trust position, just because I live in Northern Virginia, Washington, D.C., right, where a flip is going to cost you about $350,000 to $400,000. Yeah. I could participate in a hard money loan, but I would be in a position that wasn't worth anything as well. It was really a Boy Scout honor type of deal. We signed paperwork, right? They had to give me back my money. Right. But in the instance where a property got foreclosed, I was last man out and my friends had to take care of me. But it was a deal that I said I would never move into because I was not in first trust position ever. So to counterbalance that, what I did is I then moved to a platform called PeerStreet.com, and Peer Street does hard money lending where you can probably put a loan out there for 7, 8, 9%. But what they do is something called pari passu, where everybody comes together because it's a crowdfunding platform. Everyone comes together and we all put our money in to get first trust position, such that if there is a foreclosure, we have a better opportunity to get our money back than if we were in there as individual investors. So if you guys don't know, well, the only thing about Pierce Street is that you do have to be accredited in order to go into it. And you guys probably already know what accreditation is, but it's the one platform that I use to always have money working. Like if money is in my account and it's not against the loan, I feel as though I'm losing. So I have zero balance available to move into a loan, but every month when I get money back from a syndication, it goes straight into that account and it goes into another loan immediately. So just in case if you guys were looking on the crazy things that Lee Johnson does.
Appreciate those nuggets.
This is a panel that you need to be having. You need to talk to Lawrence, Lee.
That wasn't crazy at all.
I think I'm going to be talking for Lawrence on the 31st or something like that. The 31st is the holiday, so the 31st maybe, you know?
He needs to bump you up a little further than that. I mean,
Is
a
he
little
not
earlier
here?
than that, because
All right, Lee, big time Lee.
I'm the face of Mr. International right now.
Oh, I
You not
was
see my
wondering
name
why
under there?
is he so quiet? I was like, this dude is too quiet tonight. No, but happy to share. You guys already know where I am, what I'm doing. You know, this strategy that we're working on here is proven to make people millionaires, like literally. And it's small steps. And I was looking at what is your name, Mr. Chandler?
Duron, D-U-R-O-N.
D-U-R-O, Duron.
Yep.
What he mentioned with his gifts in the walking, putting one step in front of another. I have a blog on my website that talks about if you were to invest over 10 years in many different syndications, you will not only double your money, but at $50,000, if you're doubling that $50,000 every 2 to 5 years, where does that put you in 10 years? Literally, you will be close to that millionaire's door, right? If you do it correctly, right? If you do it correctly, you will be knocking on that millionaire's door, and it's all through different vehicles that you have to put into your system in order to make all of that work. Sorry, Jaden is over here playing his game, but all of that will work if you're able to do it.
Were there any other questions for me? Thoughts, comments? I'm sorry, that's my usual project manager meeting. Any other questions? Any other questions for me, guys?
I do have another question. When you did the hard money lending,
Mhm.
before you got into a deal, did you talk to your CPA friend first to kind of help have them guide you in terms of returns? Because I'm thinking if you charge them an interest rate of, let's say 9%, and you get a return that is a little bit, or hold on, sorry. Like, how did you, I guess, confirm that what you got out of the deal was not going to be taxed so significantly that it wasn't a good deal at the end of the day? Does that kind of make sense? Am I, like,
Yeah.
would you?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I always would use half, right? So I would always just cut the money in half. Like, I have to pay Uncle Sam. This is it. This is the half. Is this worth it?
Gotcha.
I think 40%. I think 40% is the more realistic number. 40 to 45 is a more realistic number. But I would always use 50 just to give it real pessimistic view of, okay, what do I have to pay?
So you would look at, if I get X amount of dollars, as long as it's, and you, let's say you were going to get $10,000 back. You're like, well, if I got 5, then that still would be a good deal. So I know that we can move
sense.
forward.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It makes sense for me to do it.
Smart.
But one thing on that one, just going back to Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, the interest that's being paid to you on the hard money, wouldn't that fall into the investment quadrant and be taxed at capital gains? So that would be at 15 or 20% dependent based upon the 2017 law, I would think, right?
Yep,
Because
right.
there's a difference between earned income and passive income,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So passive income, which is an investment, the great thing about passive income is that, and this is the one thing that I had to learn the hard way from being a flipper, is that those investments as a flipper, because they're not held for greater than 12 months, would be taxed at my ordinary income. And that's why the strategy that Duron had used was the one that I had to use. Like literally, I completed a flip. I'm nervous as hell about spending the money because I knew that there was a tax consequence coming. But my CPA, Serafina, is this one. You have to get a CPA who's versed in real estate transactions, right? Just like if you were to go and get an attorney, right? You don't go to a tax attorney to defend you for criminal things, right? So you have to, vet out that CPA to make sure that they understand the sections of the law that are applicable to real estate, because they will give you the best advice for how you should structure your entities, right? And what types of write-offs, et cetera, that you're going to be looking for, because they are familiar with it. A lot of CPAs, I think it's by their nature, CPAs are nervous type of people. They don't want to give you like that advice to go close to the line. They don't want you to get close to the line, right? But when you get a real estate CPA, that real estate CPA is more familiar with the tax code, right? Because when you read Tom Wheelwright's, tax-free wealth, he talks about, there's 6,000 pages inside of the tax law when he wrote the book. And he says only about 100 pages of the tax law is written on how to tax you. The rest, so like 5,900 and something else is there to tell you how to not pay as much in taxes. A lot of people don't understand that fact, but that's a little nugget that I picked up from Tom Wheelwright's tax-free wealth, is that the tax code is, the government wants to incentivize you as an investor to do certain things. And two of the things that they want to incentivize you to do is to create jobs and to build housing. The government wants you to incentivize you to do those things, and they use the tax code to do that. So if you haven't picked up Tom Wheelwright's Tax-Free Wealth, it's a great book. That's one of the books that you will read over and over and over, along with Kiyosaki's Cash Flow Quadrant. Those two books, when you bring them together and you just follow these simple strategies, you will be knocking on a millionaire's door within 5 to 10 years. Does that help?
It does. It does. And I think that's been one of my big struggles, is trying to find an attorney who's well-versed in tax, asset protection, business, landlord tenant laws, commercial, because it's just like a specialty of you don't go to a urologist for a heart problem,
Yeah.
So it's been hard to find, I think, people who you can trust, who will work with you as a team member versus talking down to you or not really working with you, not communicating. And so it's just been hard, even reaching out to different like real estate groups and things. It's been hard to kind of find someone who's, knows Maryland, where I invest, and who has that lens of real estate because they've done it themselves. So absolutely, I've been trying to find it, but so yes,
I think
definitely establishing your team.
No, there's the first and foremost, if you are going to be paying an entity for any service, they should respect you first and foremost. So if they're being disrespectful, I would say walk out the door immediately, right? Because imagine if they are being disrespectful to you when they want your money, how will they treat you when they already have your money? Many people in the GOB have probably leveraged LAL's CPA as their tax people. But if you're in the DC, Maryland area, there's a company called Stickley and Cassiter, SKA CPAs. And what I like about them, and I'm probably going to be transitioning back over to them, is they have like a silver, a gold, and a platinum type of service, and you pay monthly, right? So it's like $2,000 for the year, but you pay monthly, and they will complete your taxes. They will answer any and all of your questions, right? But you know, they will give you advice on how to set up your entity, but they won't do it for you, right? So those are the two that I would give you who understand taxes. Lael's, LAEL CPA. She did a good job with, you know, she understands real estate. She's both an attorney and a CPA. And, you know, if you get audited, they will look after you. I think there's another group called the Real Estate CPAs that I see advertising a lot, but the first two, skacpas.com as well as LEL CPAs are the two that I have personal experience and would recommend.
So that was SKA CPA.
Yeah, CPA or CPAs.com. They're in Chantilly, but you know, taxes now, you could be remote. These guys have clients all over the country, and they will get the right people on your case to solve the problem.
And then the other one was LALS
No,
CPAs.
LAEL CPA, LAEL, but she's out of Florida.
Okay, well, I wrote them both down. Thank you.
No, pleasure.
I didn't mean to hijack the meeting.
No, this is why we're here. We're here to help each other to grow, right? This is the community. This is what GOB is all about.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Questions, everyone? Does anyone else have any more questions for Duron?
If you want to hear the long, lengthy version of my story, on the very first podcast on the Dream Catchers podcast with Jerome, and I was on there a couple of other times as well. So that's the long version. It's probably like an hour, 30 minutes or something a little bit longer than that about the entire story.
Thank you so much for your time today.
No problem, guys. No problem at all.